Hello, welcome to Mountain Jim Card Collectibles. So today I'm going over some posts on X, dealing with Burnout with Pokemon cards for the most part. There's Burnout in sports cards as well. I'm definitely starting to see a lot of Burnout with Pokemon for one reason or another. I'm beginning to feel like sports cards are getting a bad look. When I grew up collecting sports cards, they were typically meant for younger people. They were affordable if you're young. You don't need to have a big job. Maybe you're delivering newspapers or something. You could go out and, buy cards. And for the most part, those sports cards kind of had a youthful appeal to them, if you know what I mean. You're hanging out with, a younger crowd with your sports cards, and yeah, there were some older guys, always collecting cards. But for the most part, I always felt like sports cards and the card collecting hobby revolved more around younger people. But within, the last 5 years, especially during the pandemic, we have a new crowd. And I call it the investing crowd. And so you just get a bunch of middle-aged men always, talking about profits, value, cash. It's all about the green. It's all about the Benjamins, I look at a lot of these sports card / Pokemon card influencers on YouTube, and it feels like I'm looking at, like a stockbroker or a stock investor, who I'd be watching, 10, 15 years ago when I was more active on the stock market. And I just feel like it's giving the hobby kind of a bad look, and it's starting to push a lot of people out of it. And, this is a non-monetized channel. I couldn't even get monetized, after a year of doing this, all the time. So I'm not a big influencer, but all we have to do is go to X or, where else, and you're going to see a bunch of middle-aged men basically talking about Pokemon, TCG, sports cards, like they're just big investment opportunities for your retirement fund. And I believe that it's burning out a lot of people. So to start us off, we get guys like we see here all the time, talking about sports cards, and I can understand if you're younger, why you wouldn't want to, join the club. Because guys like this, it's just money. Money, money, money. It's not about the cards. It's not about someone, fulfilling their collection that they've been working on, case hits, whatever, chasing down inserts, And that's what I used to notice is it used to be more of kind of a younger, nerdy thing. But, this push towards, selling a card, for $1 million, so you can retire is really becoming the new normal. This came from September 16th. Seeing the state of card collecting, especially Pokemon on YouTube, is so depressing. Like it looks like some of the biggest names with the most views in the space are actual slimy investment bros. And people just want to see them pull big money like it could be anything they're searching through. The fact it's Pokemon doesn't even seem to matter. Where's the passion in looking at cool cards and talking about your favorites? It's just guys nearing their late 40s, treating it like another business and throwing out investment lingo over cards. Even the way they decorate their office space feels fake. You don't give a shit about all those plushes, bro. You're measuring a card's value rate by the second on 3 separate investment apps, and not even glancing at cards worth less than $500. Half the videos are taken up by them pushing their overpriced mystery boxes. Now, this person could just like stole that out of my mouth, because I've been saying that. I have been, thinking that for a long time. I tried watching these Pokemon influencers, who are getting, 100,000 views, whatever, per episode, whatever. And I've just eventually shut it off. It's like, screw you, man, A lot of these Pokemon influencers, I started out, it's just investment, investment, investment. We're back at the stock market. We're back at a stock brokerage. It just doesn't feel like collecting cards, It just feels like a bunch of scumbags trying to, milk the most out of a Pokemon card that they can. Okay, so this comes from September 15th. It is so hard to have hobbies outside of video games when everyone's scalps are just focuses on using them as a way to make profit. Love building computers, the GPU and memory market is effed. Enjoy opening Pokemon cards, the market value has doubled to the point that people can't afford the hobby. For a kid TCG game, I can afford it, I just refuse to pay insane market prices. I get that there's probability, but it kind of ruins the whole hobby side of it. Which, he lays it out right, I mean, it's just not as fun as it used to be. And I think a lot of that has to do with there's just so much pressure on people, with what's going on in our economy. Things are just really stressful. It's really hard for people to get by. And so they're looking, for any way that they can to make some money. Unfortunately, Pokemon has become one of those ways of doing it. Okay, so here's another Burnout post. This comes from September 18th. And this one says, also Pokemon TCG has been completely ruined by rich people and scalpers the past year. I genuinely find it disgusting that they're solely in it to make profit and prevent literal children from enjoying the hobby. These pigs don't even have an interest in the hobby. Just want profit. Yeah. And, I started out this episode talking about that, how we're getting, like stock market type bros, crypto bros, any sort of investment guru that you can imagine rolling on in. Okay, here's another one. Yeah, I'm tapping out of the Pokemon TCG hobby. The most profitable company in the world cannot quell the insane second market pricing, and the only way to get MSRP products is their shit website. Not healthy for me in the long run. I got to recognize that now. Yeah, and if it isn't healthy for you, get out, because let's face it, these collectible addictions can really destroy you. Okay, here's one from August 18th. This is not sarcasm. The Pokemon TCG is boring. And, it can get boring. Let's be honest here. I know we put a lot of value on certain Pokemon TCG cards. But the commons definitely get boring, and I can relate to why maybe they are worth a penny. Okay, so this is someone who's not happy with the Pokemon TCG Pocket. Like it says here, Pokemon TCG Pocket is incredibly boring now. Wonder Pick is terrible. There's nothing to do. Farming challenges to not even get the chase card is awful. Canceling my subscription was an easy choice. And this just came from September 17th. And I've heard elsewhere where people are just getting burnt out of Pokemon TCG Pocket. It is what it is. Okay, so here's another person who isn't very happy with Pokemon TCG anymore. The burnout is real. At this point, I don't even try to buy Pokemon TCG products anymore. It's not worth the time or effort to even get on the site, let alone to try to find any at MSRP locally. I wish I could say just buy singles, but even those prices are getting scalped now too. I have to admit, the singles market for Pokemon is rising more and more. As you get more and more people, out to invest, which really makes it, tough for a lot of, just pure collectors. Okay, so here's another one. This comes from April 29th. Here's the truth. Every single facet of the Pokemon TCG hobby is broken. Sealed market, singles market, market manipulation, discords, LGSs, distributors, breakers, thieves, scammers, scalpers, content creators, vendors, graded cards, collectors. And it keeps going on here. Gambling sites, deals accounts, jobless people busting out credit cards, employed people paying market, Pokemon's inability to respond, It's all broken. Every element of Pokemon for DCG collectors has become miserable for most collectors. The only people who are truly enjoying the hobby right now are the people who are here for money. It has become extremely hard to enjoy the hobby if your goal is to actually collect, because not everyone has $300 to spend on one booster box for pre-order or $1,600 to spend on a single that isn't 3 months old. And even if we did, if we are not in the investing game, it's not smart to spend that much money on a single card or one box that will lose value immediately upon opening. Like, I've been part of this hobby for a long time, and for the first time in years, I haven't felt the desire to really buy or rip Pokemon. And that was a reply to this post. Is this the worst state the Pokemon TCG hobby has ever been, as far as product availability, price gouging, etc.? I know as far as I'm concerned, there's no doubt about, but I've only been back in the game for a few years, so I know nothing. And, you know, if anything, that might be the best burnout post I've gone over, because really it just lays it out, doesn't it? You know, that's just the nature of this hobby, is it welcomes certain people in and it boots others out. Okay, so we went over, quite a few posts today, kind of hitting the, Pokemon burnout. There were a lot more posts with sports card burnout. I can hit those at a later date. But how do you feel about the Pokemon TCG market? Do you just feel like it's been hijacked, by a bunch of, kind of crypto bros, stock market bros, that were typically, hyping up stocks, crypto, back in 2020, 2021. That's just the way I feel. Everyone is looking to invest. Problem is when investors begin to encroach and take over a collectibles market, like say Pokemon or even sports cards, we see the end result. And the end result is a hobby that seems to be pushed by a group of 30, 40-year-old men who are only in it for the money and the investment opportunities. And I just think it gives the hobby an overall bad look, especially for Pokemon. It makes the sports card hobby look bad enough to where, it's all about, cash, making money off of your investment over, chasing down those hits. And I've been guilty as well. I sell sports cards on eBay, but let's be honest here, I have never made a lot of money off of sports cards. I've said before, there's no way I could really even make a living off of sports cards. So if you feel differently, leave some comments. I always like to thank my subscribers and my subscriber base. And if you're a viewer, if you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate it, for the fact I'm still not monetized, after a year. And it could really help out this channel. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. I'm out of here. Bye.